Good morning, good noon, good afternoon, good evening, good night. It's your all in the way here again, bringing you not the new, but New Year's special episode of Opera Wears. I just finished recording and I just want to say, since this is the special episode, so if you're more interested in Akhnaten, the opera itself, not my personal stories, please just jump right through the 9th minutes. First of all, I know it's very not on time, but I want to wish you a happy 2024. Our podcast is finally 1 year old. Okay, just joking. The first episode was released in December 2023, but happy 1 month! Alright, it starts sounding weird again, but whatever. I know there's a Carmen performed at the Met yesterday, which is Wednesday, January 3rd. Never spelled the word Wednesday right. But I got some homework to do. You know, it's Stuyvesant High School here. I have seen some negative comments on the new production of Carmen these days. As a very unqualified critic, I guess I'll be right there tomorrow, which is Friday, January 5th, and write a 3,000 words little critics on the new production. And that will definitely be our next episode. Since it is the first episode of the year, it won't be that serious, even though we or I never did any serious episodes before. I just want to do something special. The question is, what is special for me or for my audience? So today, it is another day of me persuading my friends to watch Akhnaten, and she says something smart. Oh, Linda, I know you want to do a New Year special episode, and you eventually decide to continue reading your homosexual novels instead of being productive on your podcast. It is already the 57th time you try to persuade me to watch Akhnaten, and I don't really have time for a 3-hour filler class opera. What about you? Instead of saying how much you love it and keep talking about your Anthony Ruth Costanzo, spend some time and record a podcast for Akhnaten. Okay, I don't want to talk in that tone ever again, but that idea actually delights my life as a podcaster, so that's why I'm here today doing this. Again and again, this episode won't be like anything that we did before, even though there were only 6 episodes before this, but whatever. I do have a lot to say, since Akhnaten is really, truly my favorite opera of all time. And it is Akhnaten, the opera which made me found my interest in the larger or the ultimate concept of opera. Okay, if you haven't listened, I encourage you to do so after finishing this. But from my Anino episode, when I was talking about John Adams and the production, I briefly mentioned Philip Glass and minimalism. Again, back to 4 months ago, I don't know what the heck minimalism is. But by watching Akhnaten, I realized, minimalism music is just for me, a Stuyvesant High School math team kid, and an Asian if we were talking about ethnicity and stereotypes. But no more Stuyvesant here. I don't want to hear that voice, even though I'm the one who did that. By the way, if you don't know, Stuyvesant High School is a specialized high school in New York, in Manhattan, in downtown. You can Google it. I'm sure you'll find out something on Wikipedia and other websites. But the concept of combining music and repeating pattern and mathematica somewhere in music just inspired me so much. And now I cannot live without Philip Glass's 20 piano etude. I mean, I don't pronounce that word correctly, but I don't speak French. I know there's a lot of critics about Philip Glass music, but I'm just obsessed with it. Okay, so even though I watched Akhnaten with the Metropolitan Opera in HD version, so Anthony Roots Costanzo is wearing an underwear. Thanks God. But just right after I realized that Akhnaten somewhat shows the art of human body when he was being crowded as the pharaoh, I tried to say this as appropriate as my age as possible. I googled the name Anthony Rose Costanzo. After that, I became obsessed with both Philip Glass and him. To clarify, I was not at the Metropolitan Opera in person for Akhnaten. Akhnaten was at the Met way back in the 2019 to 2020 season. I don't want anyone to get PTSD, but it is the COVID season. But at the time, I was in 5th grade and barely knowing anything related to opera nor speaking English. And even beyond that, I don't think my parents will approve a 11 years old little girl taking the E train to Manhattan alone and watching opera with a 5 minutes little scene where an uncovered man is walking around on a stage with music. So, how did I know Akhnaten, the opera? So, it is the 3rd time I visited the Metropolitan Opera. I was there for La Boheme with my mom. She was in America back then, and now she leaves me alone. A round of applause. I finally decided to walk out of the theater during the intermission. Wow, how did I pronounce the R sound in the word during? I cannot do it right now. How? Okay, so because I need to take a little break from my parent, it is not a good thing if you stay with your parent 24/7. If you ever been to the Metropolitan Opera shop before, you will immediately understand what I'm talking about. So, you walk through all those cute little accessories, apparel, jewelry, and home product. Secretly say, I do think those products are overpriced. That's such an ASMR sound. So, you walk into the CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, and book sections. The first DVD/Blu-rays on the left-hand wall is definitely Akhnaten, since it starts with the vowel, which is also the first letter in the alphabet chart, A. And it is so perfectly placed in the upper middle section of the first row. So you can see the red sun and a bold man, probably a woman or non-binary. It is not a nice thing to suppose of Pharaoh's gender in 2024 America because they might secretly want to be a gender. We don't know. I don't know. However, the divine sacrification worm bud code, that's weird, alone, and I want to say the word holy, but it doesn't sound right, will automatically make you relate Akhnaten with religion. Time to start our history lesson. Credit Wikipedia and my world history textbook. Before we go on to the opera Akhnaten, you must acknowledge that it's a bibliographical opera based on the Egyptian pharaoh Akhnaten. I don't really know how to say the name Akhnaten in ancient Egyptian since no one speaks that language today. Fun fact, Akhnaten was originally known as Amenhotep IV, but he decides to convert. So he changed his name into Akhnaten, which means the effective for the Aden or Aden. Not too sure which one is it, but it's the sun god. Akhnaten was the Egyptian pharaoh reigning from 1353 to 1336 BC or the 1351 to the 1334 BC. Historian can't give a precise year of it. A short period of time because Egyptians just can't tolerate this little pharaoh who turns Egypt from polytheism, which means multiple gods, into Adonism, which is the Amarna religion. Let's set up the scenario. Imagine you are an Egyptian at the time, believing a lot of gods, and everything around you were being protected by the gods you were worshipping. And suddenly the new pharaoh came, forcing you to believe what he believes. And it is the sun god. How annoying and dictating it is. And we all know that Egyptians take religion very seriously. That's why their king, or I should say supreme leader, is called a pharaoh, the intermediary between the deities and the average people. Akhenaten's religion reformation was totally a failure. People see him as a criminal after he died. His statues were destroyed and his name was erased from the history of Egypt. The existence of him as a person, or I should say as a pharaoh, as a supreme leader of Egypt, wasn't discovered until late 19th century. That's also another reason why we cannot determine when he was ruling Egypt. This is not an Egyptian history study class. Let's go back to the opera. Please do notice that the pharaoh's name and the name for the opera were spelled differently, even though their pronunciation are the same. The opera is Akhnaten, but the pharaoh's name have an extra E. It is Akhenaten. Not too sure why, but it is a typical Philip Glass thing to do those random changes to make it seem unique. Philip Glass is a very successful composer in his life. I mean, he's still alive right now, but no means to offend. Akhnaten is the last and most influential opera from Glass's biographical trilogy, which is called the Portrait Trilogy. The other two are Einstein on the Beach. By the way, also one of my favorite operas. It is based on a book on the beach and Einstein himself. It is kind of like an experimental opera where there's no traditional narrative but formless. Reminds me of Gaffer Regio's trilogy, Koyaanisqatsi, Powaanisqatsi, and Nayaanisqatsi. All of them are American experimental non-narrative films. That is kind of like a cult films, I would like to say. Back to Philip Glass trilogy. The second one is Satyagraha. It is about Mahatma Gandhi. Altogether, the ideas of Philip Glass opera trilogy formed our world. Religion from Akhnaten, science from Einstein on the Beach, politics from Satyagraha. What I want to say is that Philip Glass is really genius in terms of combination of creativity and music. A fun fact, Akhnaten is about religion. Glass himself believed in all of the mainstream religions in order. He was first a Jewish, then a Taoist, then he converted to Hindu, and then Toltec, which was considered the later Aztec cultural religion. This is not a good conclusion for Toltec, and then eventually, right now, Glass is a Buddhist. Pull back to Akhnaten. The famous or I should say the centered aria of the whole opera, is the Hymn to the God from Act 2, Scene 4. It was based on the great hymn to the Akhnaten, the longest hymn poem written for the sun deity, Akhnaten. However, as music/opera lovers, I believe we are smarter than the K-pop addicts. No means to offend, that's a bad joke. We do have brains. So, the original text can't be in English, but rather the ancient Egyptian, which no one speaks today. It is another, I should say, fellow class thing. I don't remember it word by word, but according to Glass or Costanzo, I don't remember who said it either, the religion worshipping is beyond every other thing. It is way beyond the limitation of language. Glass just wants the audience to have that instant recognition and acknowledgement of the content of what Akhnaten is saying, or I should say worshipping. It is a moment of one's talking to their God. You need that alone, quiet time just to think about yourself and your God, and be there with your God, the thing that you believe. So from the aria, it is very direct that you can see the kind of love. I am not talking about the love between humans, not the lover's love, nor the family's love, but rather the love between a devotee and his only God. In my Anino episode, I did specifically mention that I am an atheist, but that kind of shock I got just right from Akhnaten is indescribable. It's not about religion. It's the human emotions that exist to be shared between people. That's why I cried during the hymn to the God. The pure emotion of the pharaoh, or we should say the faithful believer of Akhnaten, the sun god. The moment that this solo aria starts, when Akhnaten is alone with his God, he discards everything. His social status, his property, his people. He gives up his identity and having only this one identity as the follower of Akhnaten. And another thing that I specifically want to mention is the scene between Akhnaten and Nefertiti. The two protagonists in red ponchos crisscrossing each other in a great harmony of life. And my personal interpretation is that the past lives of the two intersect with each other in a loving acceptance of the new possibility for the future brought about the experience of the two of them. That's a tricky sentence. Is heavy and is considered an important part of the setting. It is hard to not think of umbilical cord since you have that red long ribbon. The umbilical cord, which is essential for birth and clothing, which is one of the most important products of civilization. Similarly, it is the inextricable link to intimate contact with the human body. And the moment when the two long clocks intertwine may also signify a new life for the two humans who have met each other. How fortunate is a person to meet another person who knows you and understands you and is willing to work with you and change the society. Good for both Nefertiti and Akhnaten. I would like to say that there's a lot of slow motions involved in Akhnaten for the whole time, except for those people juggling. I mean, if you're juggling slowly, those balls will drop. But The pace at which everyone is acting, walking, and moving is slowed down, just like you are watching a YouTube video and you want to look at it closely, so you play that half speed. It does create what I would like to say a sense of history, the historic and dusty feeling. That's a high requirement for the opera singers since it is really hard to move constantly at a slow pace. It means the audience will observe your actions more clearly and also a challenge for your muscles to stay in a certain uncomfortable position for a while, then change to another. Slowly, but the movement should be set steadily and solid. And the emotion should be conveyed with the precision and accuracy. Again, Costanzo is built for the role Akhnaten. He displayed the pharaoh perfectly. I feel like he is the pharaoh himself in every second of this opera. Let's go back to the scene before the last scene in the last act. I mean, Act 3, Scene 3, where there's a bunch of tourists visiting Egypt. The fact that they are sitting in front of school desks and wearing white lab coats reminds me of that 5 hours Einstein on the beach from the knee play 1. You also have 2 students like people wearing white shirts with black overalls, just sitting there, having their arms up doing nothing without any movement for 15 minutes straight. I don't understand why Glass loves torturing poor opera singers in this way, but whatever. It's his problem. A thing that I really want to squeeze in the end is the fact that Akhnaten's libretto features 3 ancient languages: Hebrew, ancient Egyptian, and Akkadian. This also intertwined with Glass's himself's religion experience. That was kind interesting. And if you are a language enthusiast or a religion enthusiast, I believe there's a lot that you can discover from this opera. I used a half Italiano, half English PDF version of the libretto of Akhnaten as reference, but based on my observations, it is very different from the mass version. But it is really truly a great source. I hope the mass version of libretto can go on sale one day, even though I don't have that much of interest in language. But it is a nice thing to know more, and because I really want to take a closer look at every line. There's much I can say if I have the precise libretto. Akhnaten is the opera that truly wins my heart. If you have an opportunity to access it and you are not objection about minimal music, please sit down in front of your device and just watch it. Please, it won't change your life, but it will somehow. I promise. Thank you so much for listening. Have a nice day. I know it is almost a week after the new year, but still Happy New Year. And if you have any questions or concerns, please just email akhnaten@gmail.com. It is AULINDATANG@gmail.com. Again, thank you so much and see you in my next episode. I really want to sleep right now. It is 12:38 in the morning, and I have to do the cover. I have to upload this episode. So have a nice day, have a nice weekend or something. Just enjoy your life. Bye.